Well,
Okay, we're recording.
Thank you. Buenas tardes, buenas noches. Thank you, everybody. Good evening for joining us. It's October 6th. This is our Consortium of Cities meeting, Boulder County, and of course, our neighbor, Broomfield. Thank you for joining us. We are still virtual, as you can see. Thanks for your patience, and want to jump in here, just talk about the agenda. We're going to talk about the sustainability initiatives. As you remember, in February, we talked about and went through a lot of different community issues and chose 5 to really focus on, and all of you have the opportunity to present in a working meeting so that we can collaborate and share information. So we're excited to hear from a great portion of our cities, towns, municipalities this evening. We are hoping to have a little bit of time after dialogue and questions about the sustainability initiatives presentations to talk about 2022. Because our next meeting will be in December. So we'll try and save a little bit of time to do that this evening as well. So I want to, what I may do is just do a quick readout of who's on from our elected officials. If I miss you, let me know. And I appreciate, again, staff for joining us this evening. So we've got, let's see here, from Broomfield, Devin Schaff, from our Board of Trustees, I believe Tim Howard is maybe not, maybe in and out here. Our trustee Ken Lish, council member Polly Christensen from City of Longmont, and who else did I miss from our electeds? Thank you, City of Boulder, council member Adam Svetlik. Okay, thank you all. Thanks for joining. And as usual, we'll probably have people pop in and out, so thank you. Let's get going. We have some presentations this evening around sustainability initiatives, and we are starting with Jamestown, and then we'll hear from Broomfield, Erie, Superior, Longmont, Boulder, and then Boulder County. And we'll try and keep each other to about 5 to 7 minutes. Take your notes. You can put questions in the chat and we'll make sure that we get back to them, but want to have an opportunity to share some resources and ideas and see how they translate from town to city to municipality. So Jamestown, thank you so much, Kenneth, for being with us.
hi, and thanks for letting me go first, I think. Just to let you all know that the town of Jamestown is pretty much dependent upon the sustainability grants that come from the county. And for the past 3 or 4 years, we've been concentrating in 2 areas. The first area is zero waste and recycling. What we were able to do as far as, and these are probably about the only ways of measurements that we've had, but during the pandemic, or during at least 2020, when there was restrictions on the size of gathering, we were able to continue our recycling. Because we were doing contact tracing, we were able to determine that about 60% of the residents of Jamestown participate in this program one time or another during the year. That's a pretty high number. We're grateful for the ability to go ahead and continue to do that. Our other focus is on agriculture, we have been investing some of the sustainability dollars into our community gardens. And the community gardens are built on 2, and there's a third available, 2 lots that were buyout lots from FEMA after the flood. So the houses that were on those lots now belong to the town. They can never be built on as far as most structures, but they make a pretty good community gardens, and we didn't have any prior to that. So we have a committee now that takes care of that. Those community gardens have been expanding, and much of the produce at the end of the year winds up in a community food share, which we do every Saturday. So the other area of agriculture, and if I can share the screen here. Can you see that?
No.
Well, let's try this again. Right. How about now?
Looks like it's coming up.
All right, so this is this is my presentation. There's no slides, just this picture. At least we won't have to spend the next few minutes looking at me. What this is a picture of the town of Jamestown about I think is maybe about 100 years old or 90 years old. Over here in the corner is the Jamestown Mercantile. It was built in 1906. And there are no gas pumps in front of it, but there seems to be some electricity or telephone line. So I'm thinking it's very early in the 20th century. Now up here where the arrows are the Jamestown Community Ditch. And the community ditch, I think, was put in the last part of the 19th century, and it provided water to these lots and houses all the way down Jamestown, down towards 12th Street. And originally, it made these lots habitable because we didn't have a municipal water system until the mid-50s. And so many people depended upon this ditch, not only for irrigation for crops, but also for their other household water needs. So in the flood of 2013, the head gate for the community ditch was washed away. And that head gate was not replaced until 2019. So the ditch went unused for a number of years, and so we're using the money from the agricultural, from the sustainability grant, to replace some of the culverts which were lost, and also to actually reconstruct parts of the ditch that were been out of use for so long. And so I can say that at this point, it stayed warm. We're about 60% completed with the project for 2021. And we're hoping that we can get funding for 2022 to expand the ditch to some other additional households. And that would, of course, then that would be less stress on our potable water system, municipal water system. So that is my my report, and I be happy to answer any questions when that time comes.
Great. Thank you. This is so interesting. I love this picture from way back when. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for participating this evening, Kenneth. So we'll hold on to questions, and I don't know if you have to stop sharing your screen, Kenneth, or
I'm going to. Well,
thank you, and we'll bring questions to the end for everybody, and someone might have some ideas and solutions on the funding. And I should at the same time mention that Mark at the beginning put in the chat one of the link that shows the diagram of the American Rescue Plan Act funding from a state level. So there's, we talked a little bit about what we're each doing municipality and from the county perspective, the county's receiving again $63.3 million, and we'll put that bouldercountysurvey.com in the chat. And that diagram that Mark put in the chat may give you some ideas of some other opportunities so that you don't have to spend the allocation that your city, town, or municipality is receiving, and instead go after some of those other bigger buckets like the housing and education, et cetera. So that might be somewhere to consider, Kenneth, is making sure you get that chart, and we can talk about that as well. So next up is Broomfield. Looks good.
All right, excellent. I'm glad that you can see the slide. All right, so thanks for letting Broomfield talk tonight about sustainability. This is something that about 2 years ago, we really took a major focus on this. And we started a advisory committee and started moving this forward. So just to refresh everyone, here are the questions that we will be answering tonight. So sustainability can be broadly defined as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And so thoughtful sustainability interventions have the potential to accrue a multitude of community benefits, positive and quantifiable impacts on human health, new industries that create well-paying green jobs, materials and cost savings to maximize resources, greater access to opportunities for historically disenfranchised members of the population, and hardening of the infrastructure in the face of increasingly frequent weather events. And I don't think that anybody is that's lost on anyone of kind of what that changing climate has looked like, especially in this past year. So as I was saying, this last year or a couple of years ago, we started a Broomfields advisory committee on environmental sustainability, or our ACES community. I was actually one of the council appointments to this when it first got started, and it was not as cool of a name back then as ACES, and they changed that right after I left. So I must have been the one that was not cool enough to have a cool name. But with that, we have been working, city council has been working with this committee, and two of the big topics that we brought that have been started are the greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan, encompassing energy as well as transportation, and then our zero waste plan. And so with our greenhouse gas inventory in 2020, the University of Colorado Denver conducted an initial inventory of Broomfield greenhouse gas emissions, including community-wide and government emissions. That analysis, we provided ACES with the kind of reference point from which to develop our goals. And so at that point, the data showed that the largest source of emissions comes from transportation sector, which, for me, doing a lot of work at the state level, this was definitely not lost on me. And a big part of that was because of the single occupancy vehicle travel. So reducing emissions from this sector will be a main focus of our GHG emissions reductions plan. The second largest category is commercial and institutional buildings with 26%, with residential buildings following it at third at 17. However, combining all of these building types, that equals 43%. So that's actually the greatest GHG emissions that we have. And so by reducing this, it provides us a lot of opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I also wanted to say that because Broomfield residents spend approximately 53% of their household income to cover the cost of housing and transportation, sustainability programs and policies also have the potential to create significant cost savings for our local families as well. And I just wanted to show this slide. So this is setting up where we are going. So staff and ACES has worked together to identify our GHG reduction goals that were specific, they were measurable, they were attainable, relevant, and time-based, or SMART goals. These ambitious GHG reduction targets were laid out in 2020, which Broomfield adopted in September of 2020. The goal is to reduce community-wide, which is residential and commercial sector, GHGs by 90% by 2050, and reduce municipal GHGs by 100% by 2050. Kind of the stair-stepped reduction schedule allows for a gradual adoption and implementation of policies and programs that will eventually reach that full compliance. In addition, Council also passed another resolution laying out our zero waste goals, which aims to achieve 50% diversion from the landfill by 2025, which is right around the door, and 100% by 2035. So that for us is very ambitious, and we will continue to move forward on that. This is just basically how we are mapping how to do our sustainability efforts. And this is one of those issues that isn't in a silo. This is something that flows through our entire organization as the City and County of Broomfield. And this is one of those topics that is a priority for our community. One of the things that we know that we have to do is to engage our community on this. So we have done an extensive community outreach efforts. The team has spent the summer asking residents for their feedback on sustainability. Residents were asked how they envisioned a sustainable future for Broomfield in order to help guide the sustainability strategy. Broomfield hosted online workshops, surveys, talked to Broomfield's largest institutions, tabled at community events, hosted in-person workshops, spoke at HOAs. So a lot of community outreach on this. Just a slide that I have in here, just some of the different kinds of feedback that we've gotten from residents on as we've talked about sustainability. And so I think that, you know, this is one of those topics that also goes right through the entire organization, and this is diversity, equity, access, and inclusion. And this is not only is this a priority for council, but this is something that goes right through our entire organization. And within sustainability, we acknowledge that this is also a major impact as well. So we continue to ask all of these questions when we are looking at how to develop a framework through which to analyze the equity impact of potential sustainability programs and policies. So we continue to ask this. We have many partners that are going through this journey with us, and I'll save time, but those are there. And I think the big thing is what comes next. And so this kind of shows you what the timeline is of how we are going to be looking at our sustainability goals and the metrics that we have coming up to achieve. And I know that was one of the questions. The metrics that we are going to set to achieve these goals are still being developed by our ACES community group as well as staff, and these will be presented to City Council in early 2022. So we're getting to the point where we're going to really have some meat on the bones for what we're doing. So we have some websites here for your reference, and then next, thank you for letting me present tonight. And if I'll answer any questions at the end. I also do want to thank our two staff members that are here with us tonight that helped me put together this slideshow, Camille Polland as well as David Allen. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you so much, and for watching the time. We're anxious to ask some questions, and appreciate staff again who probably wouldn't be in a meeting at 7:30 at night, except that they're such strong supporters of all of us around the region. So we appreciate all of you. Taylor.
Good evening. Yeah, so Taylor with City of Boulder, but I live in Broomfield and I'm actually on ACES. So I just wanted to say hi to Devin and Camila and David. And I'm on the Zero Waste Subcommittee. I actually just became chair, and I'm just like really jazzed by the work that's being done by this committee, and by our support from staff has been incredible. We just got the draft plan of the Zero Waste Plan, and so we had a good discussion about that just tonight, and really excited for the direction that the city is heading in. So thanks so much for all of your work.
Oh, that's great. Live testimonial. It's great. Thank you all. Tyler?
Yeah, Devin, great presentation. I know my direct supervisor, the Public Works Director, lives in the City and County of Broomfield, and he would be thrilled to see what's happening down there. I know he's in conversations every week with your guys' Public Works Director as well and others, but would you be willing to share that presentation with the group?
Yeah, I think that Mark is going to share out all of our presentations. So Mark, I'll get you a copy if you don't have one already.
Great, thank you. All right, and we can have some more dialogue together at the end of this time. So up next is Erie.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Tyler Kessler, Sustainability Manager, Town of Erie. This is a really good reminder. Mark, thanks so much for reaching out and requesting this. This is a really good reminder to just push pause and celebrate some successes. I tend to just kind of keep my head down and just keep plugging away, but this is great. So sustainability in Erie has not been happening for a long time on a formal level. What's happened is Public Works has been doing it a long time. Our Parks and Rec department has been doing it a long time, but it hasn't been organized in an official way until our Sustainability Advisory Board kind of got together, grassroots movement, and said, hey, we need to put this pen to paper and really draft up a sustainability plan. So they worked on that for about a year and a half. And finally, on November 2019, the Sustainability Advisory Board, which is just volunteers, similar to ACES, in the community, put together with Lotus, put together our first sustainability plan. The first action item of that sustainability plan was hiring a sustainability staff member. So when I was working over in the county commissioner's office, I saw that position posted. I was thrilled to see Erie having a new focus on that. And once I dove into the job description, I really saw that I had some unique skills and certainly a lot of energy to be able to put my efforts towards a community that really, really needed it and needed it now. And so I applied for that position and was hired on November 2019. And we've been moving forward ever since. Our sustainability plan has really 4 different focuses. In here, I know you're seeing 5 logos, but we focus on a chapter on energy systems, transportation, zero waste, which includes food and composting. And then we have a public engagement section as well, just making sure we always have an eye on that. The second plan that kind of acts as my Bible in my sustainability division is our water plan. So we have a water efficiency plan, as well as a drought and water supply storage plan. The public engagement is obviously huge for all of our communities. Because this is a new department, we really wanted to focus on public engagement as much as possible. That's how the sustainability plan was developed. That's how the priorities were identified. And that's how we're going to achieve all the goals as well, is continuing to engage our community and make sure that they're involved. So we do all kinds of public engagements, just as all of the other communities on this call do. So I won't spend a ton of time on this slide here. Some recent progress that we've made. We continue to do water education. I was able to hire a full-time position in 2020 specific for implementing water conservation and efficiency goals. And we went ahead and updated both of those plans that I mentioned a second ago, as well, finished those updates. So everything, all the data and baselines are nice and fresh. We appointed our first ever youth seat on our sustainability advisory board as well. We're very focused on that next generation. The town of Erie is also a bedroom community. So there's a lot of folks that live in Erie with their families, look to enjoy it on the nights and weekends quite a bit, but travel outside of their communities to go work. So whether it be in Boulder, Longmont, Denver, some even travel up to Fort Collins and back every day. And so we have a huge youth focus and family focus in Erie as a community. And we wanted to make sure that they're represented on the Sustainability Advisory Board. We're just finishing our update for our Energy Action Plan 2.0 with the Partners in Energy program. That's setting some refreshed goals. We went ahead and knocked the first one out of the park. So we're needing a new one. Our public works facilities is really focused on sustainability in general. So we just installed a hydro turbine at our water treatment facility, and that'll offset about 20% of the energy usage there. We set a goal for 25 by 2025 for our EV charging stations. I just made that goal up, but we're reaching for it. And we're 9 stations in now. So we're going to begin partnering with businesses as well as HOAs to start putting those in some of the most trafficked areas in town to encourage electric vehicle charging and electric vehicle usage around town. We've been doing some extensive studies on solar research, utility scale solar, both on facilities. We are expanding our water treatment plant, and we are scoping out about a 4 megawatt system for that to offset 100% of the energy usage. And then we're looking at a community scale solar project as well to begin offering it as an option connected to the grid with our respective utilities. We have both Xcel Energy and United Power. So upcoming projects, we are diving into a comprehensive plan update as well as our UDC and code updates this next year. There's some very open and welcomed dialogue with the other departments and sustainability to go ahead and fusing all of those plans with water, waste, energy, transportation needs, building, waste diversion, everything like that. So Really excited to continue that dialogue, a whole lot of work. And so I also requested another full-time position for next year as well to continue building out that department. So as we grow as a community, we'll continue to need to grow as a staff. We did get awarded the Forward Grant through CDPHE for waste diversion. So we're very well into that. October 19th is our next swing at different policies in Erie to begin diverting as much waste as possible. We've inventoried our streetlights to begin the negotiations with Xcel Energy, actually starting next week, to purchase our streetlights from Xcel as well as United Power, so that we have a bit more control on when those are updated, how those are maintained, and what additional services in terms of smart cities we can offer. And then certainly we talked about the on-site and utility scale solar projects there. What's really important is offering the offerings that our regional partners have for us. The momentum is still just getting rolling in Erie. I know we've done a lot and we've taken a great first year and a half, 2 years, kind of a swing at this, but partnerships like yours regionally and learning from best management practices that you guys have done, critical failures in certain projects as well, really helps us out. Certainly financial funding helps, but more so just learning from each other and making sure that we're staying on track and a part of the regional and statewide and even national conversation when it comes to sustainability. Our constituents expect it. We learn a lot from it as staff, and we're super excited to stay involved. Thanks for having us.
Great, a lot of information there. I'm sure we're going to have some questions, and again, just exciting to see how some of these might overlap, and if other towns or cities are thinking about some of these initiatives, what a great opportunity to share information and experience as well. Like, what do I need to be looking out for? What did I maybe not think about from a planning standpoint as well? So let's go to, just flip my page here. Superior. So we'll hear from Superior, and then Longmont, and then Boulder, and then Louisville, and then we'll finish with Boulder County.
Yeah, and Marta, apologies, totally my fault. Gabby, did you have anything to say? Gabby's our communications director. I just wanted to make sure I was on time there, said everything correctly, didn't miss anything. We did just hire our first diversity, equity, and inclusion manager as well. So we're very stoked to continue to infuse that into all of our activities.
Also from Boulder County, I'm just going to say.
Erie's stealing
Yes,
a lot of folks. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll all be friends. That's why we're working together.
Yeah, no, and you did a great job, Tyler. I have nothing to add. It's just exciting that we're getting all of these things in Erie that maybe hadn't existed until the last couple of years. So it's been great.
Great. Yeah, appreciate it. All right, Superior.
So Erie stole our Parks and Rec director as well. So I don't. Sounds like Erie's going to be in the doghouse with just about everybody in not too long. But anyway, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk. I'm just going to set the stage real quick. So over the past 10 years, I'll say that sustainability is probably an afterthought for the town of Superior, and it wasn't something we were actively working towards. But that all changed probably a couple of years ago. And we really started putting our money where our mouth is. And we do have our own ACES committee, our advisory committee on environmental sustainability. And they have really just stepped up over the past year or two. But I would say equally, if not more importantly, we've also hired our very first sustainability analyst, who is with us tonight and is going to present what we've been doing in the town of Superior. But it is just the pace with which we have been moving towards our goals. I don't know if I have seen any other town initiative move with such haste and support, and it's really been impressive and inspiring to watch. So Alyssa, I'll turn it over to you to talk about what we've been doing over the past 6 months to a year.
Great, thank you, Trustee Liss, and thank you everyone. Thank you to this group for giving our communities the opportunity to share what's happening to advance sustainability and possibly identify more areas for collaboration. I think a lot of us on this call have collaborated on things in the past. My name is Alyssa Vogan, and I'm the sustainability analyst for the town of Superior. And as Trustee Liss alluded to, my role started in March of this year. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a quick PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So my presentation tonight is going to kind of focus on what Trustee Lish was just alluding to, that it's really going to focus on the last year in Superior and what's been happening at a pretty rapid pace. But I do want to note that sustainability programs and projects have been happening in Superior for a long time. There's just been no one cohesive staff member to carry it forward, which seems to be a trend in some of our communities. But this has been typically spearheaded by ACEs, by our town board, or by really just individual staff members who have served as the champions for different sustainability initiatives. So I apologize, a lot of my slides are very text heavy. I put these together quickly today, but just to give you a quick timeline of what 2021 has looked like, there's been a lot of momentous actions that have taken place in the town that are setting us on a bold pathway for climate action. In January, the town board adopted a set of sustainability goals that were recommended by ACEs, as well as a vision statement for environmental sustainability, which I will share the full statement in just a moment. My position, as I mentioned, started in March. In April, the town became a member of two organizations, one of which has been mentioned tonight, Colorado Communities for Climate Action, is a coalition of now 40 local governments that advocate for stronger state and federal climate policy. And then additionally, the town has joined Local Governments for Sustainability, or also known as ICLEI, as a member, and we've been leveraging their different learning cohorts that they have that are from cities and towns across the United States, their technical expertise, and then most recently we joined ICLEI, the ICLEI 150 movement, which I will highlight in just a moment. And in May, I presented a community sustainability framework to the town board, which really just documents our intent to develop a sustainability action plan. And that process started pretty shortly after that. So much of May, June, and July were spent working with ACEs to baseline, and also working with town staff to baseline sustainability data in the community, which had really never been done before and was a pretty rigorous process to find where all of that data lives and who really manages it. And then it also included conducting a sustainability initiative inventory that documented over 40 existing or completed sustainability programs or projects that have happened over the last several years in Superior. And since August, myself and ACEs have been engaged with the community on the initiatives and elements that they'd like to see included in the plan. So that's been through an online format. We also had a community sustainability workshop. And then starting last month, we began drafting the plan and gathering input from regional stakeholders on the actions that we're proposing for the plan. So it's been a pretty quick planning process. We're hoping to bring the first draft to the town board in November for a January final adoption. So again, sorry, very text heavy, but I had mentioned that the board adopted a vision statement for environmental sustainability, and the vision is really what's driving the plan development. So I just wanted to highlight some of the key elements that are shaping the actions of the plan. So those are kind of bolded here on the page, but they're addressing the climate crisis and reducing townwide greenhouse gas emissions, increasing resilience, improving community health, creating healthier ecosystems, making our buildings more sustainable, both in material and operations, supporting local businesses, and improving equity. So from that vision and from the goals adopted by the board, myself and ACEs have identified 7 focus areas for the plan. And you can see those up on this slide. So the plan will include a chapter on each focus area that will include an objective, which is an aspirational statement that reflects the desired condition for each focus area. And then there's a variable number of goals for each focus area, as well as strategies and really specific actions for how to achieve the goals. The plan actions will be completed through a number of mechanisms, and those aren't all encompassed on this slide, but I just wanted to highlight, that some of these are voluntary in nature and others will require more regulatory oversight in their application. And I mentioned that much of May through July was spent working on a sustainability assessment, and this process has really helped to identify what available key performance indicators exist to measure success, as well as where the data gaps are or where reporting mechanisms need to be improved or developed. And for each action in the plan, we're also analyzing what we're calling co-benefits that the actions may have in terms of equity and inclusivity, community health and resilience, environmental quality, and economic sustainability. So we're actually using all these co-benefits along with the specific actions, greenhouse gas reduction potential to prioritize all the actions of the plan. And then just kind of a last big note. So some exciting news for Superior. Last month, our town board approved a resolution to join the ICLEI 150 movement, which is a movement of local governments across the ICLEI US network that are stepping up to join the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and their city's race to zero. That's a mouthful. But by joining this effort, we're recognizing that we're in a global climate emergency and pledging to take necessary action locally to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to zero by 2050. ICLEI supported the town in identifying what our 2030 science-based target needs to be in order to achieve that 2050 goal of zero. And they've also identified or helped us to identify some of the high impact actions that we've included in the plan. I'm sorry I've gone over a little bit. So I just want to wrap up by saying something similar to what Tyler said, that I appreciate the invite to be here this evening, and that regional collaboration and even state collaboration is really something that Superior heavily relies on to get our goals achieved. And this photo is from one of our recent plan working sessions where we were joined by regional subject matter experts across 7 sustainability related fields and from 13 different organizations. So it was really an awesome opportunity to have all of those experts in one room that the town could leverage through their partnerships. So thank you again, and apologize for going over a little bit.
Thank you for that presentation. No apologies necessary. Y'all are doing a great job.
We
on
were on
keeping
the time stuff, but thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Was there anybody else from Superior that you were waiting to hear from, or additions?
Nope, that's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah, thank you. And we'll finish writing your notes and your questions for Alyssa till we get to the end of the presentation. So we'll hear from Longmont next.
Polly, you're on mute, but I'm going to screen share
Okay.
for Polly.
You can just do the presentation, Mark.
No,
Can
no, I
everybody
can't
hear
do that.
me? Sometimes these headphones make things wonky.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I need Mark's help to flip through the slides, but then when you've gone through the 8 slides, yeah, just settle on page number 2, which is the one with the 10 points. So this is our brief sustainability plan. It's an overview. It's the one you probably want to look at. If you want to look at, this is 8 pages long, and that's the one we're going to look at. If you want to look at the 135-page one, that is good reading for putting yourself to sleep at night, but it also shows you what we've achieved and what we have, how we measure it. And it's very elaborate, not really what I had in mind, but it does show you what we have accomplished and what we are still planning to do and how we're going to accomplish it and how we measure that. So it's very good. Here are the, I'll just give you a brief history of this without getting into what a martyr I am. The city of Longmont had a sustainability plan in about 2009. In 2011, a whole new group of people were elected, and they told the people who'd created the sustainability plan, take it away and don't ever bring it back. They also said the same about the affordable housing mandate. They also introduced restrictions on the Environmental Affairs Board so that they could only meet when City Council allowed them to meet, and they could only discuss what City Council allowed them to discuss, and they were not to ever use the word sustainability. So it has been a heavy lift to get Longmont on board with this. But anyway, when I was elected in 2013 and I realized what was going on, I decided to change that. So I began working on restoring it by talking to lots and lots of people. And in the end, what happened is, whether I like it or not, we had all these people. This is on the 135 page thing. All these people talked and talked for a couple of years and created a plan that, while it's not really what I wanted, it's a plan and it's a good one. And these are the issues that it talks about: air quality, buildings and infrastructure, community cohesion and resilience, economic vitality, energy, food systems, natural environment, transportation, waste, and water. And I think all of us can agree that this is a pretty comprehensive list of the things that we need so that we can actually hand over to our kids something worth handing over, the same world we inherited and maybe better, something that's going to be good for the next 7 generations. So that's the idea of this. It's sort of based upon the 3-legged stool of environment, economy, and community, and how they interact. What I originally wanted was to have the Boulder County Sustainability Coordinator use the same template she'd used for Susie Stites and yes, I think so. And Elia Yancey, who I spoke with a lot of the time, to give us a template, and then we could customize it to Longmont, and it would be much less expensive and more coordinated with the county. But no, everybody thinks that they have to do things their own way in Longmont. So what's different about Longmont is we actually have our own city services, and I wanted to have a sustainability coordinator that was only answerable to the city manager, but she's answerable to the Public Works Department. However, our Public Works Department controls Parks and Rec, Nextlight, which is our broadband service, our unified services, which are trash, water, composting, recycling, sewage, electricity, and stormwater. So because we offer all those services on a citywide basis, it's actually in many ways easier for us to coordinate this stuff. And we have enormous community support for all of this. None of this would be possible without people from the community constantly coming to the city and nagging us and supporting us. So we are also members of Platte River Power Authority, which includes Loveland, Fort Collins, Estes Park, Longmont, and Greeley. So that's another element of how our energy and power gets supported. But I wanted to bring up 2 things that I think are sort of shortcomings about our plan. One is that this is intimately tied to our Envision Longmont plan, which isn't an ordinance. It is an urban planning document, and it has some self-contradictions. And so to have it tied to that directly creates problems in that, for instance, that document, the food system says, support a locally based, environmentally responsible and healthy food system that is available to all residents. Well, actually, Longmont is a very agricultural community, and yet everything in Envision Longmont, they give lip service to both that in the Envision Longmont and also in the sustainability plan. But the truth is that we're eliminating every bit of agriculture within the city. So that's very problematic. And yet there are a lot of places in Longmont, farmers like Olin Farms, who are doing tremendous work with carbon sequestration, and Jack's Solar. And I would suggest all of you go see Jack's Solar. Every Saturday they have a tour, I think about 10 o'clock, and it's an amazing, amazingly clever and helpful operation. And the other thing is community cohesion and resilience, which is the 3rd bullet point. A vibrant community where all residents have equitable access to the opportunities needed to thrive while preserving and enhancing natural, cultural, and financial resources. That's a nice thing to say, but you have to really walk that talk, because I don't see that actually being very, I don't see the lower income people in Longmont getting any of that. And Longmont's area median income is about $33,000, which is per capita. And that's what it is in the United States as well. So this is not high income. And it's great to talk about electric vehicles, but if they're all based on tax credits and rebates, that's not available to anybody of lower middle class income or poor. So there's a lot of work to still be done, but I really do think we have done a huge amount when you consider how completely opposed people were in Longmont in 2012. And how we have turned around on every level. The city is behind this, most of the people are behind this, and incredible to see all the stuff you guys are doing in every one of the towns in just the last decade. This is terrific because, you know, it gives me hope. So that's my presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Here I go again. My notes. I feel like Boulder, and then Louisville, and then Boulder County.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Again, my name is Jonathan Cohen. I'm the director of the city's Climate Initiatives Department. And as I'm doing a little tech check, Adam, I should probably invite you to say a few words if you'd like to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but again, just wanted to offer that up to you.
Yeah, Jonathan has actually extensive history and ability, which I do not. So please listen to him and not me.
That's a great intro.
Yeah, we shared a video intro one time together. That's about my experience in the field of sustainability. Also, I try to sort all my recycling. So.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we got that on recording, so that's terrific. Well, again, I'm super delighted to be with you all tonight. And obviously, I think you can see from these presentations, this is a subject that's really dear to many of us, and we could talk for hours. And this is going to be a real challenge to keep my comments down to 5 to 7 minutes. So again, I wanted to come at this in a little bit different way, and I wanted to provoke some thinking and take a few minutes to share some of Boulder's experience from doing this work in sustainability for quite a while, and how that's evolving our current thinking and where we go. And I really appreciate the emphasis that I've heard tonight on collective action. That's a theme that I want to keep coming back to. So, of course, Boulder has a long environmental legacy, really prioritizing sustainability in areas like waste reduction, energy, transportation, conservation. And our focus on sustainability more broadly, I think, has really shaped the majority of our programs and policies. So for decades, the city has continually evolved our approach to the triple bottom line of sustainability. And as a side note, you know, sustainability as a term and as a practice still suffers from ambiguity, not unlike the term that we talked about some months ago, resilience. And after decades really of developing our aggressive sustainability, zero waste, food systems, resilience plans, I did want to share some insights. So in 2017, I'm not going to put all of our plans up, but one of the things that we did do just recently in an attempt to operationalize sustainability into our organization, our city created a sustainability framework, which is intended to really align efforts across our city organization by establishing this common language for goals and priorities. And I'm sorry, this is probably small for many of you to read, and that's okay. It's really a framework to guide budgeting, planning processes, and providing those consistent goals around a set of specific outcomes. The challenge with this is it's not terribly transformational. And quite frankly, where this falls short is that these types of frameworks and the literal dozens of our sustainability focused plans don't reflect the urgency of our situation. So there is this dual relationship between sustainability and climate. So a lot of my comments really lean into our climate work. It's generally synonymous with our broader sustainability efforts. Again, we all hear that scientists tell us that we have essentially till 2030 to make the massive societal system scale changes required to stave off the worst effects of climate change. So These are the kind of learnings that we in the city of Boulder and many communities are recognizing the sense of urgency, the pace and necessary moves that we need to make to get to emissions reductions near zero, understanding that carbon drawdown is essential, and that's an area that many cities haven't really explored. And as we talked about a couple of months ago, we have to prepare for the impacts of climate change that are coming. So, a couple of insights that we've learned along the way. I call this the evolving role of local communities in this space. Some critical learnings. The first point is that achieving climate stabilization requires a system scale change, meaning we can't rely on individual actions alone, and we need to place more emphasis on bigger leverage points, while at the same time ensuring equity is at the center of needed changes. So examples of these large system dependent changes are things like reducing large scale land disturbing management activities, reducing or altering the production and propagation of plastics, redesigning electrical grid infrastructure. These are underlying systems that we have to change, but really aren't influenced directly by isolated personal choices being made by individuals or even single communities. So we, and at least in the city of Boulder, are making a pretty significant shift to focus on systemic actions while continuing to support individual behavior change. Okay, so the second point is that, like many other cities globally, our climate and environmental legacy reflects a city-centric approach. What I mean by that is that there is this underlying assumption to date that's been, as leading cities demonstrate they can achieve emission reductions within their boundaries, they would inspire other cities to adopt and achieve similar goals. And it was assumed that this would in turn put pressure on larger public jurisdictions like states and the federal government to adopt similar goals. So here we are, 20 years into this broad movement, and we now know that this approach is pretty insufficient. So we have to develop new approaches that include points 3 through 5. We need to work effectively outside our boundaries. Doing what we are doing here tonight is so critical to the success not only of the collective, but each individual community. Our success comes from forging new and creative partnerships, and we have to lean into progressive policies. So this is, I'm going to apologize in advance. This is just to illustrate my point. This map is from one of our partners called CityScale. We do some work with them. The point of this slide is that, and I apologize if the use of red and blue may be challenging to some people. The point here is that of local jurisdictions, only 8% have established sustainability or climate programs. So what you're looking at on the map are red dots are those that do not, and blue dots that do. So this idea of propagating this mass swell, this movement really hasn't taken effect. And so we do need to really think about a different approach based on the urgency of our situation. Okay, another key insight, and I will get through these pretty quickly, is that both adaptation and resilience and equity have to be core design principles in all that we do. We know the future will be fundamentally shaped by increasing frequency and intensity of climate change caused disruptions. And as the primary provider of local public services, we as local governments have to prioritize an increasing amount of attention and resources towards addressing these impacts. So at the same time, climate change disproportionately affects those who are both least responsible and most vulnerable to its impacts. We know that. So this diagram is a depiction of how we are thinking about, on the left, our climate stabilization work, really aggressive mitigation efforts. On the right, strengthening our capacity to adapt and thrive through absorbing, adapting, and transforming our systems. And those are built around these design principles and actionable benefits around equity and community resilience. Okay, I'm almost there. The other thing that we've done this year is some spheres of influence mapping. This is a really interesting thing that we've done in realizing that cities don't always control or substantially influence enough of the factors necessary to achieve on their own the scale of emissions reduction now called for. So we don't control factors that are determinative of overall emissions, the carbon intensity of the larger grid, the availability of affordable electric vehicles, the availability of market-ready alternatives to natural gas appliances or systems. And we now understand that climate change is driven by additional factors not originally included in our energy system-focused GHG inventories, things like land management, carbon intensity of consumer goods. And we have to consider those broader factors to see how we can have the greater impact. So part of this reframe of our climate action framework is really to lean into this area of natural climate solutions, the economy, land use, and circular materials. I'm going to give you two really brief examples. We've been hosting a really unique global discussion about the role of the economy, both in climate change and ultimately climate stabilization. We've been drawing on leaders in fields central to solving both the climate crisis and a series of these interrelated crises: energy, material economy, ecosystems, biodiversity. And this webinar series, there we go, has really underscored the focus of the role of the economy in driving these crises. Shameless plug, tomorrow from 12 to 1:30 is our final webinar in the series, where we'll have award-winning science fiction writer Kim Stanley Robinson. He's going to discuss themes from his most recent book, Ministry for the Future, and how he believes the economy could be redirected to enable a de-escalation of climate change. Last slide. So building on some of our legacy work as a leader in open space and environmental protection, our climate action work is also really advancing and mainstreaming our natural climate solutions as a core focus area. This includes soil-based sequestration, urban forestry, and landscape sequestration, bioenergy, biochar. And one of my staff is leading the Urban Drawdown Initiative, or UDI, that is a spinoff from the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance and the USDN network. And that is recognizing the potential of urban landscapes as a part of natural climate solutions. Hopefully we can come back and talk more about that, because that is a regional approach we should be thinking about. So I will abruptly conclude by saying that our recalibration of this work is really just the beginning in Boulder and a lot of communities around the country. I am so proud and honored to be working alongside many of my colleagues that are here tonight. So I will stop sharing and I will mute myself.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and for being here. We are going to hear from Louisville and then Boulder County.
All right, well, thank you. Again, I'm Rob Zuccaro, the planning director for Louisville, and I'm kind of sitting in for our sustainability coordinator, Katie Baum. She is out on a well-deserved vacation, so I am glad she is able to do that. So she knows a lot more about all of this than I do, but I'll do my best to share with everyone what Louisville has going on, and especially our current initiatives. So, and I don't have a slideshow, so I just put up something from our Sustainability Advisory Board's current action plan, just so you have something to look at while I go through this. So we have had a Sustainability Advisory Board since 2010. And their initial action plan was created in 2016. They actually just updated it in 2020. So the plan does include, goals in the areas of climate, energy, transportation, waste, water, ecological health, and local food and agriculture. They do have near and midterm objectives, which are really action items in the plan. So that really helps guide the city on, what we are focusing on and what we're trying to achieve. So what we are doing currently, one of the biggest things is Katie actually was just made a full-time employee, which is great. She was part-time for a couple of years. We were able to move her into a full-time position. That's been supported by a grant through Boulder County, so we really appreciate that support and partnership. That's been great. But that's really helped add staff capacity, it's helped with community engagement, and to really get initiatives off the ground. So having staff has just been incredible. I think we have launched some new community outreach, our online engagement platform, Engage Louisville. We've created a program called Climate Action Together. We have a new e-newsletter for residents. We are doing surveys for businesses and residents to get more feedback on important issues. Really what we're doing on the ground for city facilities, this year we're investing about $600,000 just in upgrades to our own city facilities. This is some really basic infrastructure for our facilities, but we're upgrading lighting, water heaters, insulation. We have worked with Excel Energy to complete energy audits on all of our city facilities. We've benchmarked all of our facilities through the Energy Star portfolio manager programs just to get baseline data as we move forward. Some other initiatives that we have going on, We recently adopted a disposable bag tax, so we're working on implementation of that. It goes into effect in January of 2022. So we're working with businesses and the community to get everybody prepared for everything that goes along with that. Another initiative that we're working on is adoption of the 2021 version of the International Energy Conservation Code. So we have adopted the previous version, but we want to update. There are a lot of energy efficiency improvements with the new code. This is actually set for public hearing with our city council on October 18th. As drafted, we are also, and what city council will see on the 18th is we're also requiring the solar ready construction appendix. So that's for residential and commercial buildings. We are including a new section for vehicle charging infrastructure that would need to be installed for all new construction and major redevelopment. We also have provisions in there that would require dual fuel or electrification ready construction if gas appliances are installed, and it also requires higher efficiency gas appliances if you don't go all electric in your construction. So that's what's going to be reviewed by council in a couple weeks here. As far as how we're measuring progress, our city council in 2019 did adopt a resolution with targets that include meeting all of Louisville's municipal electric needs with 100% carbon-free sources by 2025. We have a goal to reduce core municipal greenhouse gas emissions to a 2016 baseline, and we have that goal by 2025 as well. We have a goal to generate 75% of our residential and commercial industrial electric needs from carbon-free sources by 2030, and to reduce core community greenhouse gas emissions annually to below the 2016 baseline by 2030. So those are some of our goals that our city council has adopted. We also have some key performance indicators that we do track each year, and that includes greenhouse gas emission reduction, water use per capita, and commercial and residential waste diversion. So we are tracking that annually as well. So that's, in a nutshell, what Louisville is working on.
Wow, great. Thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Up next, Boulder County.
All right, thank you, everyone. Again, it's an honor to be included. This is the first Consortium of Cities gathering I have had the chance to join. I've really enjoyed hearing some of these details about what's happening in each one of our communities across the county. I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, and I'm still learning so much about what's unfolding and how I can learn from everything that's happening, and how in my role I can help to facilitate even more impact. Let's see here. Mark, I'll have you go ahead and just share those slides and I'll let you drive. So my name is Matt LePay. I'm the Senior Climate Strategist for the Office of Sustainability, Climate Action and Resilience, or OSCAR. And, you know, with just a very short little window of time here, I will say that most of the real effective, powerful, where the rubber hits the road work is really happening in the cities that everyone just described. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more on the high level, and as well as some details about how we're focusing resources to create more opportunities for collaboration. So we'll go on to the next slide. So I'll talk a little bit just about some of the costs as it connects to the climate reality that we face. I'll think a little bit about some of the levers that local governments can use to combat climate change, and then mention very briefly some current and future collaborations that are happening across Boulder County. So we'll go ahead to the next slide. So I really don't need to go through these impacts that we're all experiencing. Suffice to say that it's impossible to really put this out of mind at this stage of our existence, especially here in Boulder County, where the impacts are getting more consistent, more noticeable, more damaging. And one thing I really want to emphasize is that these impacts are not felt the same by everyone within our communities. The community members that are lower income, that are traditionally have had the least contribution to the climate crisis. These are also communities of color, Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian Pacific Islander, other people of color. These are the communities that are experiencing the impacts the worst and have the fewest resources to respond to these impacts. Now, another critical piece that we need to think about in local government roles is the costs. I mean, just one data point. If we look out to the year 2030, it's projected that we'll look at between 80 and $100 million of increased costs just in baseline road damages as a result of climate impacts. And that's just very one sliver. We're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in the coming decades, and we need to think critically about how to mitigate those impacts and prepare for those consequences. Okay, next slide. So one thing that Jonathan just spoke to is something that I want to emphasize here, and it's about the role that local government can play in the relationship to the climate crisis. Here, this quote on the left, despite the deserved recognition of the importance of city-based climate action, the past decade plus of mayoral commitments, local climate plans, intensive city-to-city sharing of best practices has not yet led to rapid transformational greenhouse gas reductions. And that map that Jonathan showed, presented by our partner CityScale, is a stark reminder that it really is not building this groundswell across the country, that we can only rely on local government to create these transformational changes. We at the county were part of this group that's looking at the state of local climate planning. And this is collaboration of local government across the country coming together to ask these very difficult questions. If cities alone, if local government alone is not capable of transforming the climate crisis, what is our role? And increasingly, we're looking at these dual opportunities. One, to make sure that we are investing heavily in adaptation and resilience to protect the most vulnerable within our communities. And number two, creating partnership opportunities and pressure to influence state, regional, and national level policy. We can go on to the next slide. So some of these local levers, really we've heard some really effective initiatives and programs that are happening across the municipalities here. And I'm also really encouraged to hear that climate justice is becoming a key central theme in a lot of our local climate planning. We understand that there's this integral relationship between climate justice, racial justice, and economic justice. And we're building the capacity as a county, and it's exciting to hear the capacity being built within local cities to really center that in our climate action planning. Now, the policy work, it was mentioned a few times here, the CC4CA initiative, Colorado Communities for Climate Action, now up to 40 municipalities that are members. I think this is really becoming something of a gold standard that a lot of other regions across the country are looking to in asking this question: how can local government punch above its weight and have influence beyond just the resources and the spheres that we can control within our local communities? We're also starting to look at opportunities for increasing even more influence, including in the realm of purchasing and procurement, and trying to embed climate strategy within all different areas. One good example is within building codes, which was mentioned before, but also exploring things like purchasing concrete that is carbon neutral and advancing some of those markets and increasing demand. These regional partnerships that we're now all a part of here within Boulder County, this is also something that we're investing really heavily in, and trying to find those opportunities to really collaborate even beyond just the state of Colorado, but across different regions in the US. Okay, we can go on to the next. So a couple of examples of some of the collaborative efforts that we're investing in here at the county level. What's great is that a lot of you all are part of some of these projects that are unfolding. One I'll mention is a project that I'm leading, which we're calling the Climate Impacts and Equity Mapping Initiative. And this is a project that we're about halfway through, which is looking at the very detailed level down to the census block level within the entire county, looking at the impact risk from climate factors, including extreme heat, flood, wildfire, drought, high heat days, air quality, but also looking at demographic information, communities that have the fewest resources to respond to climate change, households that have elderly or other vulnerable individuals, households or communities that do not have English as their primary language. And this will give us a very targeted map that shows where the greatest vulnerabilities are within the county. And then we have an opportunity to work with the cities across the region to think about how to provide resources for those individual households and communities to adapt and be resilient. We're also looking at some carbon dioxide removal partnerships, opportunities to not only reduce emissions, but to be drawing down. This was mentioned in Jonathan's presentation. The Urban Drawdown Initiative is one of our partners in thinking through some of these strategies that may be relevant. We're exploring launching this Climate Innovation Fund in 2022, which will have a focus on these carbon dioxide removal strategies, everything from direct air capture to enhancing our agricultural practices to store more carbon, to urban forestry initiatives, to, like I mentioned before, things like carbon neutral concrete. All right, last slide. So in closing, I just want to appreciate the chance to increase this collaboration across the county, and excited to continue to get to know you all, hopefully at some point, actually in 3 dimensions and in person. And I will end it there and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Matt. There's a lot in all of those presentations, and my hope is really that folks, I would suggest people put their emails in the chat. Let's not make assumptions that we all know each other and or have that contact information. Let's open it up for questions. We have 8 minutes, so we have about 7 minutes and then we'll do a wrap. But definitely while you're here, I would love to hear from folks who have some either ideas or questions that we can bounce around. Kenneth, are you leaning in?
I'm here.
Did you have a question?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that's fine. I couldn't tell if you were trying to get to the mic.
Oh, okay.
To unmute. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I am just curious, since Louisville is initiating some building permit type initiatives, if anybody else has anything in the works or is contemplating. One of the things we've talked about is how important regionally it is to kind of have a level playing field. Potentially, you know, if you are going to be implementing some more ambitious building or zoning codes, to try to coordinate and have that level playing field.
I'll just chime in. I'm not sure what the status is at this moment. And Matt, maybe you can talk to this more, but there is a regional kind of cohort going on where we're discussing the 2021 IECC code update, as well as looking at different stretch codes and strengthening amendments and things like that. And then as far as regional collaboration, I know Louisville and Lafayette have both been great at sharing information with Superior in terms of what you're doing now and what you're possibly looking to do in the future, because we have, I think, some of the same concerns about the playing field that you mentioned.
I'll just add that Broomfield is looking at policy STEM programs in the development of our GHG reduction plan. So we are looking at our local neighbors to see what they are doing.
Great, thank you. And I apologize, I didn't see Jonathan or Matt who had their hand up first.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate it. It's a great question, and I'd be happy to connect you, Rob, with our Energy Codes coordinator. There's a lot that we are thinking about that are kind of provocative moves. But one of the things that I think is really useful is to make sure that we're all kind of connecting on Colorado's new building performance standards. Again, those were all kind of initiated through HB 1286. So I think there are some things that we can be thinking about regionally to really kind of move the needle collectively in our space. So if you want to, I see your email. I'd be happy if you're okay with that, just to give that to our building codes person.
Thank you both. Matt?
Yeah, just a quick comment. So following up on Alyssa's note that we have pulled together this proposal that we submitted to DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, to receive some funding support to advance our adoption of building energy codes, as well as to develop a strategy for net zero new construction. We just got the thumbs up just last week that we got the $25,000 awarded, and we'll be reaching out to identify the next steps. But I know that Katie Baum is also part of that conversation. And so now that we've gotten the resources, we'll be able to move that forward and share more widely how some of that strategy will connect. If I remember right, I think it's Louisville, Lafayette, Erie, Broomfield, North Glen, and Superior have all had some participation in developing that strategy. So it's another great example of this regional collaboration leading to some real strides.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder, I would take a look at that coloradohealthinstitute.org and the document that Mark put in the chat, because there are some opportunities there for funding specifically around COVID, but if there's an opportunity there for folks, I would just a reminder. Do we have a last question from anyone? Jonathan, I'm guessing that's a previous hand that's still up, but I want to check in. So it looks like contact information's in there, and Mark's agreed to send that out to this group, not to the whole mass, whoever gets emails normally, but to this group, since everybody on here has said yes, they'd be interested in getting contact information. We'll give you an opportunity to follow up with folks. If you can get to your, if you have, and maybe I don't have it on mine either. Well, maybe let's just do a pull off mute for a second, everybody. Let's say thank you to our council members, Adam Sputlik and Polly Christensen, for their work and with the consortium over time. It's super, super important. So we can be loud, we can be noisy. It's really okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
For
both.
spending the night with us, everyone.
I appreciate everybody. A shout out again to all the staff who is supporting this meeting, and certainly to Mark Resin, who coordinates this meeting and gets us together and keeps my order together for my calendar and gets me here as well. So thank you, everybody. I'll give you 2 minutes back of your life and your Wednesday evening. Keep in touch and keep asking the questions, and let's continue to do great work together. Boulder County is an amazing spot for us to be, and also our neighbors in Broomfield. So appreciate you all. Have a great night. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you, everybody.